Lao Tzu said, "The substance of the way is non-being. You cannot see its form when you look at it. You cannot hear its sound when you listen for it. This is called the mysterious unknown. The mysterious unknown is a way of talking about the way. It is not the way itself. The way is gazing inward and returning to oneself. Therefore, when people do not have small awareness, they do not have great delusion. When they do not have small wisdom, they do not have great folly. No one uses flowing water for a mirror, still water is used for a mirror. By keeping thus inwardly, you become still and are not scattered outwardly. When the moon is facing the sun, it loses its light. Yin cannot take on yang. When the sun comes out, the stars are invisible. They cannot compete with its light. Outgrowths cannot be stronger than the basis. Branches cannot be larger than the trunk. When the top is heavy and the bottom light, it will easily overturn. One abyss does not have two dragons. One female does not have two males. When there is one, there is stability. With two, there is contention. When the jade is in the mountains, the plants and trees are verdant. When the pearls grow in the depths, the river banks do not wither. Earthworms do not have the strength of sinews and bones, or the sharpness of claws and fangs, yet they eat of the mountains above and drink of the underground springs below, because they are single-minded. The clarity resulting from purity is such that you can see the pupils of your eyes in a cup of water. The disturbance of murkiness is such that you cannot even see a mountain in the water of a river. An orchid does not lose its fragrance because no one smells it. A boat does not sink just because no one rides in it. And an exemplary person does not stop practicing the way just because no one is aware of it. That is how they are by nature. To put the pure into the polluted is demeaning. To put the polluted into the pure is upsetting. If there are two energies in the sky, they form rainbows. If there are two energies in the earth, its resources leach out. If there are two energies in people, they become ill. Yin and yang cannot be permanent. It is winter for a time and summer for a time. The moon does not know the day. The sun does not know the night. When the river is wide, its fish are big. When the mountain is high, its trees are tall. When the land is broad, its qualities are rich. Therefore, fish cannot be hooked without bait. Beasts cannot be lured into empty traps. When there are fierce animals in the mountains, because of them, the trees are not cut. When there are stinging insects in a garden, because of them, the flowers are not picked. When there are wise ministers in a nation, they ward off enemies for 1,000 miles. Those who attain the way are like the axles of carriages, turning in their hubs, not moving themselves, yet conveying the carriages for 1,000 miles, revolving endlessly in an inexhaustible source. So if you elect the crooked to assist the honest, there is no getting anywhere. If you elect the honest to assist the crooked, they will not go along. When you stretch out a net where birds are going to fly by, what catches a bird is just one eye of the net. But if you make a net with just one eye, you will never catch a bird. So events may be impossible to foresee, things may be impossible to predict. Therefore, sages nurture the way and await the time. Those who wish to catch fish first dig a channel. Those who wish to lure birds first plant trees. When water has accumulated, fish gather. When the trees flourish, birds gather. Those who intend to catch fish do not dive into the depths. Those who intend to catch monkeys do not climb up into the trees. They just let them have what suits them. The space where the feet are stepping is slight, and so you need untrod ground to walk farther. What the mind knows is narrow, so you need the unknown to gain understanding. If the rivers dry up, the valleys are empty. If the hills are leveled, the pools are filled up. If the lips are retracted, the teeth get cold. When water river is deep, the soil remains in the mountains. When water is still, it is clear. When it is clear, it is even. When even, it is flat. And when it is flat, you can see the forms of things in it. Because the forms cannot be merged, they can be considered veritable images. What causes leaves to fall is the wind shaking them. What causes water to be turbid is something disturbing it. A vessel of jade rings is the achievement of the grindstone. The cut of a sharp sword is the power of the whetstone. An insect on a swift horse travels 1,000 miles without flying. It carries no provisions, yet does not get hungry. When the hares have all been caught, the hunting dogs are cooked. When the high-flying birds are all gone, the mighty bow is put away. To retire when one's work is accomplished honorably is the way of nature. Anger emerges from non-anger. Action emerges from inaction. Look at existence, and you apprehend what can be seen. Listen to silence, and you can apprehend what can be heard. Flying birds return to their homeland. Rabbits on the run go back to their lairs. When foxes die, they rest their heads on their home mounds. When insects are cold, they take to the trees. In each case, they rely on what gives them life. Water and fire are incompatible, and when there is a cauldron between them, they can be used to blend flavors. Close relatives love each other, but when slanders come between them, even fathers and sons are dangerous to each other. An animal raised to be eaten will feed from any vessel. The more it fattens its body, the closer it is to death. A phoenix soars a mile high, so no one can get at it. A pestle remains firm through 100 poundings, but it cannot strike itself. The eyes can see farther than 100 paces, but they cannot see one's own heart. Make a mountain on the heights, and it will be safe and not perilous. Make a pool in a depression, and it will be deep, so fish and turtles resort to it. Canals and ponds overflow in a rainstorm and dry up in a drought, but the source of the rivers and seas is so deep that it is never exhausted. Turtles have no ears, but their eyes cannot be covered, so they are precise in seeing. The blind have no eyes, but their ears cannot be covered, so they are precise in hearing. Murky water is turbid. It can be used to wash one's feet. Pure water is clean. It can be used to wash one's tassels. Raw silk may be made into a hat, or it may be made into socks. When it is a hat, you hold it up with your head. When it is socks, you walk on it with your feet. The power of metal overcomes wood, but a single blade cannot cut down a whole forest. The power of earth overcomes water, but a handful of dirt cannot dam a river. The power of water overcomes fire, but a cup of water cannot put out a carload of kindling. In winter there is lightning, in summer there is hail, but cold and heat do not change their seasons. Frost and snow may pile up, but when the sun comes out, they flow. What is tilted is easily overturned. What is leaning is easy to push over. When something is almost done, it is easy to help. When the climate is humid, it readily rains. It is because they are fragrant that orchids do not get to see the frost. Insects crushed in the 5th month for ointment flee an army. Their life is in the full moon of May. When vitality leaks out, it is easy to be destroyed inside. Produce that is not in season is not to be eaten. Which wears down first, the tongue or the teeth? Which is straightened first, a rope or an arrow? What makes the shadow curved is the form. What makes the echo unclear is the sound. Those with the same illness as others who have died cannot be cured even by a good doctor. Those on the same course as nations that have perished cannot be saved even by loyal planners. If you have a musician puff on a flute while having a craftsman finger the holes, even if they keep in time, they cannot make it sure, because there is no director giving it shape. Someone walking in a forest cannot go in a straight path. Someone going along a defile cannot tread it in a beeline. An ocean is vast because it takes in what it puts out. There is no second son. A vixen does not have 2 males. Spiritual dragons do not have companions. Ferocious beasts do not herd. Birds of prey do not go in pairs. A parasol without a cane does not shade you from the sun. A wheel without spokes does not roll, but the cane and the spokes are not enough to depend on. When you draw a bow and shoot, the arrow cannot fly without the bowstring, but the propulsion of the arrow is only a 10th part of shooting. Hungry horses in their stables are quiet, but toss some hay beside them, and contention arises. No one can fill a 3-inch pipe if it is not stopped, but if a need is met by 10 times 10 measures, 100 measures is enough. Cut along the line and you don't go too far. Weigh on a balance and you don't go wrong. Pointing out ancient laws for analogies, let enforcement be carried out if and when appropriate, and let punishments be executed if and when appropriate. To carry them out when they are right is called decisiveness. To carry them out when they are wrong is called disorder. Farmers toil, rulers live off it. Fools speak, the wise choose. When you see things clearly, you can put them in appropriate places, as you would jewels and stones. When you see things dimly, you must keep a plan. The light of 100 stars is not like the light of 1 moon. 10 windows all the way open do not give the light of 1 door. Snakes are not suited to having legs. Tigers are not suited to having wings. Now suppose there's a couch here, 6 feet long. To get across its length lying down is not hard, even for the clumsy, but to jump across its length from a stand is easy, even for the skillful. Is not easy, even for the skillful. This is because of the difference in the position and execution. Those who assist at a ceremony get rewarded. Those who help out in a fight get hurt. Those who take shelter under unlucky trees get hit by lightning. The sun and moon ought to be bright, but floating clouds block them. River water ought to be clear, but silt muddies it. Wild orchids ought to live long, but the autumn wind kills them. Human nature ought to be calm, but cravings harm it. If you are in a cloud of dust and don't want to be blinded, that cannot get it to clear. Yellow gold and tortoiseshell are considered trinkets by the intelligent. Soil covering the ground is considered wealth by the able. Therefore, to give gold and jade to the weak is not as good as giving a foot of plain silk. The hub of a wheel is empty and stands in the center. Each of the 30 spokes exert its strength to the full. If you have an axle only and not the spokes, how can you get anywhere? Citrus fruits have their homelands, reeds have their thickets. Animals with the same feet roam along with each other. Birds of a feather fly together. If you want to observe the lands of the 9 states without traveling thousands of miles, or you have no source of policy and education and yet want to be at the head of a multitude of people, you will have a hard time. The fierce get caught, the high-flying get shot. Therefore, great purity appears ignominious. Broad virtue seems inadequate. When a gentleman has too much to drink, a lowly person strikes the jug. If it is not to be liked, at least it can be used to evoke shame. People naturally prefer to wear cotton clothing, but if someone is shooting at them, they will put on armor. They find what is suitable because of what does not suit them. 30 spokes in one rim fits into one slot, and only one, like workers each keeping to their own jobs. When people are skillfully employed, they are like legs of a centipede, which are numerous yet do not interfere with one another. They are like tongue and teeth, soft and hard, rubbing against each other without hurting. Stones are hard by nature. Flowers are fragrant by nature. What you have in youth becomes increasingly evident as you grow. Supporting and upholding, refusing and deferring, gaining and losing, acquiescing and refusing, these are 1,000 miles apart. Second growth does not fruit. If flowers are too early, they fall even if there is no frost. The sweat is on the nose, but the powder is put on the brow. When there's a rotting rat under the steps, it stinks up the house. Go into the water and you'll get wet. Look for fragrance while carrying something foul, and you won't succeed no matter how clever you are. In winter, ice can be chopped up. In summer, wood can be tied in knots. The right time is hard to find and easy to lose. When the trees are in full flourishing, you can pick from them all day and they still produce more, but let the autumn wind deposit frost, and they will wither in one night. When a target is set out, arrows are shot at it. When a wood is luxuriant, axes are taken to it. It is not that they beckon it, but it happens as a result of the situation. A nursing dog will bite a tiger. A sitting hen will grab a weasel. Bolstered by their feelings, they do not assess their strength. A person who would only rescue someone from drowning for a profit would certainly drown someone for a profit. A boat can float, but it can also sink. Fools do not know to be content with enough. If a good steed does not go forward when urged on, and does not stop when pulled back, a real leader will not seek to go anywhere on it. Even if water is even, it will always have ripples. Even if a scale is correct, it will always have a margin of error. Even if measurements are equal, there will always be some slant. Without compass and ruler, one cannot establish circle and square. Without the plumb line, no one cannot be sure of the straight and curved. Those who use the compass and ruler also have the heart of the compass and ruler. No matter how high a mountain is, you cannot see it with your back turned. No matter how tiny a hair is, you can see it if you look at it. Although there is fire and wood and bamboo, it doesn't give heat unless they are drilled. Although there is water and earth, it doesn't come out unless you dig. Swift as an arrow is, it won't go more than a couple 100 yards. If it goes step by step without stopping, even a lame tortoise can go a mile. Keep on piling up baskets of earth, and hills and mountains will eventually form. If you are at a river's edge and want some fish, you'd better go home and weave a net. A bow must be tuned before it can be expected to be powerful. A horse must be trained before it can be expected to be a good steed. People must be trusted before they can be expected to exercise their abilities. Even a good smith cannot melt wood. Even a good carpenter cannot cut ice. When nothing can be done about something, enlightened people do not concern themselves with it. It is possible to get people not to cross a river, but it is not possible to get a river not to have waves. If no one says it's all right, the jar is not lowered into the well. Those who criticize your actions want you to associate with them. Those who criticize your goods want you to sell them to them. Making one move at chess is not enough to show your knowledge. Plucking one string of a harp is not enough to produce a feeling of melancholy. Now if you pick up a single piece of burning coal, it will blister your fingers because of the closeness. But if you are far enough away from a ton of burning coal, you won't die. The energy is the same, but the quantity is different. When there is glorious flourishing, there is inevitably sadness and wasting away. When the upper classes wear silk, the lower classes wear hemp. When a tree is large, its roots extend in all directions. When a mountain is high, its base supports it.